Islam. Islam 101.
Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillahi amma ba'du. Welcome to another episode of Islam 101, the basics of the religion of Al-Islam, where we don't want to get too deep or too complicated as it relates to the issues that we're dealing with. We want to deal with the surface issues so that a person who's interested in the religion of Islam can get a complete and concise understanding of that particular issue on a basic level, or for the one who is a Muslim and he's probably new to Islam, he's a revert to Islam, he can also come to get an understanding and a new appreciation of the importance of learning the fundamentals and the basics correctly. Today, inshallah, we're going to deal with a basic issue of the religion, and that is, how does the Muslim go about creating and building for himself an Islamic household? We have with our students here today, as we've had students in the past, usually they're young and they're not married. So people are looking to build their lives, looking to build their future, inshallah. And part of everyone's future is being married to a wife, the ideal Muslim wife, inshallah, the ideal Muslim husband. And we mentioned on a number of occasions in our program how the religion of Islam has informed us whoever has gotten married, whoever gets married, he has completed half of his religion. So let him marry or let him fear Allah in the other half. So we do not believe in this concept, again, of a person secluding himself in the top of a mountain or inside of a cave or living out in the desert under the claim or with the claim, I'm worshiping Allah, I want to be a monk. No. Allah mentioned this as a practice of the people of Ahlul Kitab, people from the Yahud and the Nasara, in one of the ayahs when he called it, and he said, it is a ruhbaniyah, it is a monasticism and an asceticism that they have created it. They introduced it for themselves. Allah did not send down any authority for that. So the religion of Islam did not order us to avoid women. It did not order us to be a group of people who men only live with men, women only with women. You cannot be a monk or a nun in the religion of Islam. You cannot castrate yourself. There were certain companions who were so serious about their worship to Allah that they asked for permission. Ya Rasulullah, would you give us permission to castrate ourselves so that we won't have the desire that comes as it relates to women, the natural desire, we want to do away with it? The Prophet ﷺ said, no, I do not allow this. I do not allow anyone to do something to take these kinds of drastic measures. So how do we go about building an Islamic household? You brothers who are young, you're not married, people from the viewing audience. The first thing that we want to mention is that the person has to look for a righteous, a religious mate. The man has to look for a religious lady. The lady has to look for a religious man. Allah mentioned in the Quran, الطيبون للطيبات والطيبات للطيبين. The good men are for the good women, and the good and pure wholesome women are for the good and pure wholesome men. So that's the very first thing that we have to look after. Do not preoccupy yourself with marrying the woman who is a very beautiful woman physically. She's physically attractive, but she doesn't have the religion. She's not religious. What is her beauty going to do for you after the initial happiness of being married to her wears off? When the winds of adversity start to blow against you and your relationship, you need a woman who's going to be in it to win it. The Prophet ﷺ told us that women are married. Men marry women for 4 reasons. They marry them because of their lineage. They marry them because the woman may have a lot of money. They marry them because the woman may be extremely attractive. They marry them because the woman is religious. He said, فَاظْفِرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرَبَتْ يَدَاكَ. Marry the woman who's religious and you'll be successful. Because no matter what your lot is in life, you have a PhD or you're ummi, you're illiterate, you can't read and write. But if you have a religious woman under you or in your household, you're going to be successful. So that's the first step that has to be taken. The second step that I would advise in terms of building an Islamic household is, once the man and the woman, they come together in the union of matrimony, in the nikah, they come together, both of them have to know their job and their role and their responsibility. So the second thing is, everyone must know their role and their responsibility. The man is the man and the woman is the woman. The man is the one who wears the pants, as we say. The woman shouldn't wear the pants or the thobe, nor should the man wear the khimar or the jilbab. Everyone should know their role and their responsibility. A man, he has a unique role and a job to fulfill, a responsibility. A job that the woman cannot fulfill. And if she desires and she goes after trying to do his job, there are going to be problems. So Allah has mentioned to us in the Quran in a number of verses concerning this. وَلَيْسَ الذَّكْرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. The man is not like the woman. And vice versa. The mafhum al-mukhalif. We understand the opposite of that, that the woman is not like the man. So both sexes should be happy and satisfied with who they are and how they are. وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Men and women, neither one of you should covet after or try to go after and desire what Allah has given the other group over the other group. What He has given men and favored them with over the women, women shouldn't go after that. What He has given the women over the men, men shouldn't go after that. The man shouldn't say, as we find in India, for an example. I don't know, Muhammad, if this is in Afghanistan, but it's in India. If a man wants to marry a woman in India, the woman's family almost has to pay the dowry to the man. I've seen that. I've heard that. That the woman's family almost has to pay the dowry to the man. This is from Hinduism. It's the other way in Islam. The man is the one who pays the mahar or the dowry to the girl and not the other way. So everyone should know their role and everyone should know their responsibility. The Rasul of Islam, the Prophet and the Messenger of Islam, he told us, all of you are shepherds and all of you will be held accountable for your flock, for your sheep, those people who are under your authority. The man, the father, the husband is a shepherd and he'll be held accountable for his family. The woman, the wife, she is a shepherdess and she will be held accountable for her husband's house and for his children. Everyone has a responsibility and everyone will be questioned about how did you facilitate and take care of that particular mas'uliyah or responsibility. Number 3, ikhwani, my brothers and sisters who are viewing, one of the most important ways of building an Islamic household is the ayat in which Allah has ordered us, O you who believe, save yourselves and save your families from the hellfire. Not just save yourselves. Save yourselves and save your families from the hellfire. قُوْ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. Save yourselves and your families from the hellfire. Abdullah ibn Abbas, who was the habr of this ummah, the scholar of this ummah of al-Islam, he was the prolific alim, the scholar of the Quran, the one who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made supplication, dua to Allah to teach him this Quran, so that when Rasulullah died, there will be a number of people who remain behind who can explain the interpretation and the meaning of the Quran. Not like other books. Once Jesus is gone, I didn't say die. Once Jesus is raised up, because we believe that Jesus has been raised up and he didn't die. But we also don't believe he was crucified on the cross. We believe that he's coming back. But when he comes back, he's going to make the truth clear. So the Bible, if we wanted to find out, explain to me the Bible. People today don't really know what's going on in the Bible. And that's why if you bring the greatest preacher, the greatest scholar or professor from Harvard, from any of the great institutions in Islam, in the world today, bring any of them, the scholars of the Bible, you will find that a person who has a simple working knowledge of the Bible will be able to show them, look, this book is not from Allah, because if it was from Allah, the way it is right now, it wouldn't have all of these discrepancies. So Abdullah bin Abbas, he remained behind and he taught the people the Quran. Anyway, concerning this ayat, Abdullah bin Abbas said, save yourselves and your families from the hellfire. It means teach yourself and your family the religion of al-Islam. Teach them how to pray. Teach them even before that the meaning of La ilaha illallah, that there is no ma'bud bil-haq illallah, that no God deserves to be worshipped except Allah. No human being, no prophet, Muhammad doesn't deserve to be worshipped. Gabriel doesn't deserve to be worshipped. Money, women, power, nothing deserves to be worshipped except Allah and Allah alone. Teach them about the aqsam of a tawheed, the different divisions of a tawheed, in a simple way that they can understand it. And also teach them about Muhammad Rasulullah, that just as only Allah deserves to be worshipped, only Muhammad deserves to be followed unconditionally. The tawheed of al-ittiba', following Muhammad and Muhammad alone, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So that's the interpretation of Abdullah ibn Abbas, and the interpretation as well of Ali ibn Abi Talib, that you should teach your children al-Islam. Teach them about the salat. Rasulullah told us, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, order your children to make the prayer when they reach the age of 7. If they're 6, you can still tell them to pray, but you don't have to put pressure on them. Once they reach the age of 7, put pressure on them. Come on, you have to pray. Make wudu, make salah. Obviously, you have to teach them the prerequisites of salah. You have to teach them how to make wudu and so forth and so on. Order your children to make the prayer when they're 7 years old. And make sure that you hit them at the age of 10. Don't hit them a beating which is oppressive. No. You hit them in the way so that they'll know the importance of the prayer. So this hadith helps us to understand a number of issues. And then he went on to say, and separate them in the bed when they're 10 years old. So if the boy is sleeping with another boy and he becomes 10 and the other son or the brother is 8, 7, 6, they used to sleep together. When he turns the age of 10, separate them in the bed. The boy and the girl in the bed together. One of them reaches the age of 10, separate them in the bed. So this helps us to understand that we teach our children etiquette. We teach our children the religion. We teach our children, like the Quran took the time out. Allah revealed those verses in the Quran about al-istidhan, seeking permission. And the hadith or the ayah is talking to the young people. Let those children who haven't reached the age of maturity in your homes, let them seek permission to come into your private chambers, mothers and fathers, 3 times before the Fajr prayer, at the midday prayer, and at the end of the day. At the midday prayer when you take your clothes off, and at the end of the day after Isha when you're going to go to sleep. So this is part of how we form an Islamic household for ourselves. In addition to that, one of the most important ways to form an Islamic household, and then we're going to open up the door inshallah and give the students an opportunity to participate in this topic. One of the most important ways of forming an Islamic household is for the parents to take the time out to supplicate to Allah for the guidance of the children and for the tawfiq or the success of the family unit itself. The Prophet told us that there are 3 supplications that Allah will answer. 3 people who make dua, and his dua is always accepted, one of these 3. The first one is the person who is traveling, and the second one is the person who is fasting, and the third one is the individual who makes the dua for his children, the mother or the father who makes dua for his children. He told us when an individual dies, when a human being dies, his deeds cease to exist. They stop to exist. And one of the things that he benefits from is what his child does. And we'll deal with that when we come back, insha'Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the second half of this particular segment, this most important segment of how do we go about building for ourselves an Islamic household, a household that is built upon the rules and regulations of the religion of Al-Islam. Hope to see you inshallah when we return.
Islam 101.
Dear viewers, Hoda programs can be watched in the English section of the in-flight entertainment directory on board all Saudi airline flights, domestic and international. Sit back, relax and enjoy watching Hoda's entertaining and enlightening shows on your trip. Hoda wishes you a safe and successful journey. Hoda, a light in every home.
Islam 101.
Welcome back to the second episode of the second segment of today's episode. How do you go about building an Islamic household? How and what should be done by the mother and the father as it relates to ensuring and securing that there is the aroma of Islam inside of your home. When someone comes to visit your home, whether they're Muslims or non-Muslims, and the doors open, they smell the aroma of Islam in your home, the aroma of the Sunnah. We're not talking about a real aroma that comes as a result of cooking a particular meal. We're talking about the way the people carry on, and so inside of the house, there's an aroma that emanates from that action. How do we go about doing such a noble and valiant effort? We were mentioning concerning the issue of building an Islamic household, how it is important for the parents to utilize the weapon of the believer. And the weapon of the believer is his ability to make dua, to supplicate to Allah, to ask Allah, the strong, the wise, the all-knowing, the powerful and the mighty, for the things that we may need. The human being, once he dies, his deeds cease to benefit him, except in 3 circumstances. Number 1, if he has left behind an ongoing charity. He built a masjid. Everyone who prays in that masjid after his death, they will pray there and he'll get the reward because it is an ongoing and perpetual charity. Number 2, he'll be able to benefit if he left some knowledge behind. He wrote a book. He brought 100,000 Qur'ans and he passed them out to people. He put them in the masjid. When people come and they read his book, and Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim and Imam Malik, these scholars of Islam wrote books of hadith and other than that, and they're not here anymore. Thousands of years they've been off of the face of the earth, and yet they're still getting benefit. And lastly, and this is the point, when the person dies and he has children, his righteous son, his righteous daughter, they make dua for him. So this dua is important, that the parents make dua for their children to be established on this religion, that they will be conducive individuals in terms of helping them to establish this Islamic household and helping them to get the reward of Allah after their death. Those are some of the examples that we can give, and we have some more inshallah, but first we want to give our students an opportunity to participate inshallah. We'll start with Peter. Here, Pete.
Yeah, my question is why they in masjid the woman praying back and the man pray behind. So I want to know in Christians or in the church we are praying together, woman and man we are sit together. So I want to know about
concerning why is it that in the religion of Islam, in the masjid or even in the home, because we're talking about the Islamic household, why is it that the men pray in the front and the women pray in the back? Isn't that an example of making women second-class citizens? And why is that? Because in Christianity, in the church, and I used to go to church, they are mixed. Everyone is mixed together. Why is that in Islam? Well, as it relates to the religion of Islam, that's the legislation of the Quran, and that's the legislation of the authentic Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that men pray in the front and women pray in the back. One of the reasons behind that is because in our prayer, as is mentioned in the Bible, we fall down prostrate and we make what is known as sajda in our prayer, in the salat in Islam. When we fall down to the ground, we put our heads on the ground. And it's not acceptable, nor is it befitting for a woman to be in that position in front of men. With all of the problems between the two sexes here in this world today, a child can barely reach the age of 18, a girl in the U.S. She can barely reach the age of 18 except that she's going to lose her virginity to a man who's not even going to marry her. So which man in his right mind, who's with his family and he wants his daughter to grow up chaste and virtuous, which man is happy when his daughter comes home with a baby in her stomach out of wedlock? In your culture in South Sudan, in the southern part of Sudan, they're not Muslims, but still to this day, the lady who comes home and she's pregnant and we don't know who the father is, or she's young and she's pregnant, that is frowned upon, isn't it? In Islam, it's even worse. So what we want to do is we want to cut off the means and the ways of giving the devil, giving shaitan, the opportunity to create that atmosphere. So we have the separation of the sexes, and that's one of the reasons. Another reason is the woman in Islam, she is going through different things like during the time of the month in which she's on her mints, she doesn't pray at all. She doesn't pray at all. So she can't be the leader of the prayer because there are going to be days where she can't pray with the people anyway. So the trial and the tribulation that comes from women in general, the seductive voice, the beauty, the masjid is a place of concentration, is a place of worship. And we're going to do, inshallah, a topic and a segment about the masjid and the role that it plays in al-Islam. So those are some of the reasons. Akhi Muhammad al-Afghani.
Yes, my question is that how can we force our children to pray and at a time we are living in a society that they call for social democracy and don't let us to force anyone to do anything, especially our children.
Concerning the issue of the democracy that these people are calling for, first of all, we believe that they have double standards. Democracy. Certain people, they want to run their countries in non-democratic ways. We find these people going into their countries and changing their governments, and those people have a right to their own determination in terms of what they want to do. So democracy is really a joke and it's a game that the powerful nations use, and I don't believe it. I didn't buy into that concept of democracy. In America, as an African American, I don't see the democracy in America. Black people are still discriminated against, and there's institutionalized discrimination in America today as I speak. It's better than what it was in the past for black people, but nonetheless, black people are still discriminated against day in and day out. So where's the democracy? So it's just a game. As it relates to our children, they may say the child should be allowed to do whatever they want to do, choose the way that they want to choose. But the person who says that, I don't believe that there's any system of government or any group of people who would really believe in some nonsense like that. Children need directions and they need instructions. In the Bible itself, spare the rod, spoil the child. Spare the rod, spoil the child, which means if you don't hit the child, you're going to spoil him. But what's the hitting that we should do? Is it the child abuse that we have, where the parent picks the child up by the feet and they swing the child and hit the child's head against the wall? No, that individual should be dealt with severely. And in Islam, he is dealt with severely because that child's life is sacred. It can't be taken. His blood can't be spilled. The hidden is the hidden in which you just make the child to understand. That's our religion, and we don't apologize for that. So we're against the two extremes. We're against child abuse, and we're against sparing the rod to the degree that the child becomes the mother or the father. The child can now spit on the parents, punch the parents. No, every parent has a moral and a religious obligation to give his child instruction. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Stay in the middle course. Akhi, amen.
In Islamic, you can marry by 4 women, but in Christian, you should marry by the 1 woman. What's different?
Concerning the Islamic household, as it relates to plural marriage, we already mentioned the issue, and we've dealt with the issue of marriage in al-Islam and the topic of plural marriage as well. We dealt with that in details. And we may mention back then at that time that it is permissible to marry multiple women in al-Islam, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. If you were to take all of the women in the world and you were to line them up in one place and then you match them off with one husband, there are going to be a lot of women who are going to remain unmarried. So what about those women? What should be done with them? So where's the justice and the fairness of that? The man should be allowed, or in Islam he is allowed, to marry more women because they outnumber men. Another wisdom behind that particular issue is if a man has the ability and the wherewithal and the mental state of mind and the physical stamina and ability, and the woman is in agreement with it, why shouldn't he be allowed? Where's the democracy? That's what he wants to do. That's what she wants to do. Where's the democracy? Why do they come and censor what people want to do? How is it hurting you, and why is it your business anyway? But they'll turn around at the same time and look at the double standard and the hypocrisy. It's okay, they'll say, for a man to marry a camel or a man to marry a horse. I saw a program in which a man married a donkey, and he was kissing the donkey and bragging about having relationships with the donkey. And right now he's petitioning the Supreme Court in the United States for the right to marry a donkey. Democracy. Why don't we allow him? Well, they will agree to that and indulge that. But when it comes to the religion of Islam, no, you people are criminals. How can you have more than one wife? Another thing is that there are certain Christians who are in the world today, like in Utah, in the United States, Utah. There are a group of Christians who are called Mormons. They try to stick a bit more strictly to the interpretation of the Bible, but they have their issues. Anyway, they marry more than one woman. And the Christian church is upset with them everywhere you go because they debate what they're doing based upon the Bible. And no one can come and tell them this is not from our religion. So this is why we say over and over again, look, we have to be a group of people who open our minds for intellectual discussions. Don't hate things just because it's strange to you. They say in Arabic, man aada shay, man jahila shay aadahu. Whoever is ignorant about a particular thing, he takes it as an enemy because I don't know it, I don't do it, it's not from my culture, it's not what I want to do, so it must be bad. That is an asinine point of view. That's ignorant for someone to take that position. The things that we don't know and the people that we don't know, the places that we haven't been, are far greater than the people we do know, the things we do know, the places that we have been. So we travel to the earth, through the earth, and we look at people's different ways of living and what doesn't have inherent harm in it and evil and dirt and filth. We say this must be from what is beneficial. So this is what my answer is concerning that. Akhi, Nur al-Islam.
Allah says in Holy Quran, وَلَيْسَتْ ذَكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. The meaning is that man is different with women. Many non-Muslims say that Islam is unfair religion because Islam unfair because Islam distinguishes between man and woman, and also Islam gives a different right in politics or in another side in economy. What do you think about this?
First of all, we have to understand that, yes, there are differences between the two sexes, and as Muslims, we don't apologize for these unique and distinct differences. And with that being the case, at the same time, even though there are differences, women have been given a number of rights that clearly show and prove they have been honored in the religion of Islam. And we'll deal with those rights, inshallah, in a topic, an episode, all unto itself. Women in Islam and their rights. And we'll refute, inshallah, the feminist call that women are equal to men and women should be like men and women are being oppressed in the religion of Islam. We're going to bring this episode to a close. Looking forward to seeing you, inshallah, in an upcoming episode of Islam 101. And I want to thank all of my brothers here and our guests, Peter. Tune in for the next episode. Wassalam ala man ittaba al-huda.
Islam. Islam.